It was barely a month after 26-year-old Melissa Carter moved into her dream country home when the strange occurrences began. While unpacking after work, she would hear what sounded like conversations echoing through the house. She could never quite make out what was being said, but the cadence of voices was unmistakable, like people having a discussion somewhere in the house. The peculiar events took a disturbing turn during her housewarming gathering. Melissa had invited her colleague Heather, who brought along her friend Emma and Emma's boyfriend Luke. During the party, Luke approached Melissa with an unsettling observation. "There are people in this house," he said, his expression grave. "Well, yes," Melissa laughed nervously. "That's why we're having a party." "No," Luke insisted, lowering his voice. "They aren't alive, and they don't want you here. This is their house." Melissa dismissed his comments and continued hosting, but noticed that Luke disappeared shortly after their conversation, though Emma and Heather remained until the end of the evening. In the summer of 2010, Melissa had been eager to find a property where she could keep her 2 horses. When her father mentioned a recently available property, a modest farmhouse with 5 acres and a barn in rural Millfield, it seemed perfect. The previous owner had recently died, and his family was selling the property at an attractive price. "When I first saw it, I fell in love with the place," Melissa recalled. There was a stocked pond in the back, a charming front porch, and exposed wooden beams in the living room that gave it character. The spacious property would accommodate her horses perfectly, and the craftsmanship inside the home convinced her this was where she wanted to live. She purchased it without hesitation. Even before moving in, strange incidents occurred. While showing the empty house to her co-worker Rachel, something unexpected happened. "Who else is here?" Rachel asked immediately upon entering. "Nobody, just us," Melissa replied. "I just saw someone walk across the hallway in the back," Rachel insisted, pointing toward the bedrooms. Despite searching the house together, they found no one. Rachel admitted feeling uneasy, as though they were being watched, but Melissa brushed it off. As Melissa began moving her belongings in, she noticed peculiar smells that seemed to follow her through the house. The bedrooms had the musty scent typical of an elderly person's home, but whenever she turned to leave a room, she would be hit with a strong waft of old-fashioned cologne, the kind her grandfather used to wear. "It was as if someone was standing right behind me," she explained. "I would check the medicine cabinets and closets for anything that might explain the smell, but they were completely empty." Once fully settled, the unexplainable phenomena increased. Besides the conversations she would hear, Melissa often caught faint strains of old twangy country music from the 1930s or 40s playing somewhere in the house. Despite searching for the source, she could never pinpoint it. No radios were on, the TV was off, and no cars were passing by with music playing. After the awkward encounter with Luke at her housewarming party, Melissa mentioned it to Heather the next day. "Your friend's boyfriend was acting really weird," she said. "Yeah, he's sensitive to these things," Heather replied. "He told me what he said to you. He sensed an older couple there, said they were watching everyone." Melissa tried to dismiss these incidents, determined to enjoy her new home. Around this time, her colleague Diane approached her at work. "So you bought the old Wilson place," Diane remarked. "Yes, it's really charming," Melissa replied. "I knew the Wilsons well," Diane continued. "Harold built that house for his wife Margaret and their 4 children. They lived in the basement while he constructed the upstairs. They were very religious people. According to Diane, Margaret had passed away in what was now Melissa's bedroom. Harold had been devastated by his wife's death, becoming reclusive and refusing to use certain appliances that only Margaret had operated, like the dishwasher. He eventually died in the living room, sitting in his favorite chair, still mourning his wife a year before Melissa purchased the property. "I didn't know they had both died in the house when I bought it," Melissa admitted. The revelation about the previous owners coincided with an increase in unexplainable activity. One evening, while Melissa was watching television with her dog sleeping nearby, the attic door suddenly flew open with a loud bang, striking the wall behind it. Her dogs immediately ran to the stairs, hackles raised, barking furiously at whatever invisible presence had caused the disturbance. Another issue emerged after heavy rainfall. The basement would flood severely, contradicting what she had been told by the seller. While cleaning up the water damage and removing rotten wall panels in the basement, Melissa had her first truly frightening experience. "I was pulling off damaged panels when I heard a raspy voice clearly say, 'Get out.' I paused, unsure if I had imagined it, but when I continued working, the voice returned louder, 'Get out.' Frightened, Melissa ran for the stairs, but something grabbed her ankle. I felt fingers wrap around my leg," she recalled with a shudder. "I bolted up those stairs and knew then that my house was truly haunted." Months passed with continued strange occurrences. One evening, arriving home after work, Melissa saw the silhouette of a large man through the picture window in her living room. Her dogs were barking frantically inside, unusual behavior for when she returned home. Too frightened to enter alone, she called her brother, who came over immediately. They found no intruder, but the incident left her deeply unsettled. During this period, Melissa became closer to her colleague Ryan Morgan. She cautiously began sharing the inexplicable events occurring in her home. Initially, Ryan was skeptical, but his doubts vanished when Melissa arrived at work one day limping badly. She tried to play it off as clumsiness at first, Ryan recalled, but eventually admitted she felt hands forcefully push her down the stairs when she wasn't even close enough to trip. As their relationship developed, Ryan eventually moved in with Melissa. The paranormal activity seemed to intensify after his arrival. One strange phenomenon they couldn't explain was the constant appearance of flies in the smaller bedroom, what had once been the Wilsons' children's room. "Every day I would vacuum up dozens of dead flies by the window," Melissa explained. "The next day, there would be 80 more. We cleaned thoroughly, checked for hidden sources, but they kept appearing in that one room only." The situation reached a breaking point one winter night. Melissa and Ryan were watching television when the pantry door in the hallway suddenly opened. An inflatable air mattress stored on the top shelf flew horizontally across the hall and struck the opposite wall. "It didn't just fall," Ryan emphasized. "It traveled 3 feet horizontally and hit the wall at the same height it had been stored. No natural explanation could account for that." The couple's fears escalated further when their 3-year-old son began exhibiting unusual behavior. They noticed him reading picture books aloud, turning the pages to show the images to someone invisible beside him. Nothing had happened to the children before, but seeing that made us realize whatever was in the house was now interacting with our son, Ryan explained. "That crossed a line for us." On another night, the couple was awakened by what sounded like someone forcefully kicking in the front door. Ryan grabbed his pistol and methodically cleared every room in the house, then searched the entire 5-acre property, but found no explanation for the thunderous noise that had awakened them both. A particularly terrifying incident occurred when Melissa awoke in the middle of the night to see a dark figure standing beside their bed. It wasn't just a shadow, it was darker than the darkness in the room. I could make out the silhouette of a head and shoulders. I called out to Ryan, and when I looked back, it had vanished. On yet another night, the couple had locked their bedroom door before sleeping, something Melissa had begun doing habitually. They were awakened by the sound of the lock popping open and the door swinging wide. Desperate for answers, Melissa reached out to paranormal investigators. After being dismissed by a well-known investigator who claimed her case wasn't worth his time, she contacted a local team, the Riverview Paranormal Society. In August of 2015, investigators Valerie Nichols and Kathy Bennett, along with psychic medium Sarah Palmer, arrived to examine the property. Melissa and Ryan remained present during the initial investigation as the team conducted electronic voice phenomenon sessions and electromagnetic field readings throughout the house. The team was so impressed by their findings that they returned for a second investigation, this time bringing electrical engineer Tom Bennett to verify that no electronic devices were being used to create the phenomena. During their investigations, they captured several clear EVPs, including a male voice sneezing when only women were in the house, and a voice saying, "Don't go," as Melissa was leaving a room. The paranormal team conducted a cleansing ritual with sage and prayers, but warned the couple that the entities seemed deeply attached to the home and might not leave. The investigators concluded that while a blessing might help reduce activity, peaceful coexistence with the spirits might be their only option. "You didn't just get pushed down the stairs," Ryan argued after the investigators left. "If they could do that to you, what might they do to one of our children? We can't risk that. Harold might love his house, but he can have it. I'm not staying." Melissa's parents took over the property to complete renovations before selling. Despite their initial skepticism about ghosts, they too experienced inexplicable events while working alone in the house. Melissa's father reported finding a fly swatter at the bottom of the basement stairs that had been hanging on a nail by the door when he entered. On another occasion, he distinctly heard the garage door open, footsteps crossing the mudroom, and someone moving around in the kitchen. When he investigated, he found the house empty, the garage door closed, and his vehicle the only one in the driveway. After completing renovations, Melissa's parents sold the property. Since moving out, Melissa and her family have experienced no further paranormal activity in their new home. I think the activity increased when Ryan moved in because the Wilsons were very religious and we weren't married, Melissa theorized. Plus, we were renovating the basement where their family had originally lived while Harold built the upstairs. He loved that house and built it himself. He wasn't happy we were changing it. On 2 separate occasions while living in the Wilson house, Melissa sustained injuries after being pushed down the stairs by an unseen force, including a broken rib and torn shoulder muscle. Following their harrowing experiences, both Melissa and Ryan developed a deeper interest in paranormal phenomena. They participated in organized ghost hunts at reportedly haunted locations, though none yielded experiences as intense as those in their former home. In 2019, Melissa was invited to co-host a podcast called American Hauntings with paranormal researcher Nathan Hayes, where she occasionally shares her experiences from the Wilson house. "The realtor knew why we moved out," Melissa concluded, "but I don't know if they disclosed that to the new owners. I wouldn't want anyone to go through what we did." It really opened my eyes to what you might be dealing with when something paranormal happens. It's not like you can just avoid it. It's your home. You have to come back and stay in the same place tomorrow. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's horror story and want more creepy tales like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. If you've got your own scary experiences, or if you have any feedback on the quality of my narration and the writing, I'd love to hear about your opinion in the comments below. Stay safe out there, and I'll catch you in the next video.